Shabbat shalom to everybody. All right. Welcome to everybody that's joining us online as well. A good morning and a Shabbat shalom to all of you. I walked out of my house this morning, actually a little late, had all sorts of computer problems. There's not going to be any notes for handout notes anyway, for today. Had all sorts of computer problems this morning, but they're online. You guys can see it online and download them if you want on your phones, your iPads, whatever it is that you happen to be using. But I walked out of my house this morning and it was snowing. I'm like, all right, who ordered this? No more snow. And then I guess it stopped. It was just flurries. I got nervous there for a minute. I do not want to shovel. That's a big driveway out there, by the way. I do not want to shovel that thing again. It is good to see everybody this morning. Of course, Sister Stephanie, Mary Ellen, it's good to see you. Tell Mosey we love him, we miss him, and to get better soon. We want to see him back here. If you're watching, brother, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much. We miss you. All sorts of neat stuff going on. As Pastor Matt said, we're going to have our quick meeting right after the service today. There'll be a sign-up sheet right in the back, and just if you find your name, sign in. And literally, it'll just take 5 minutes. We're going to make it really, really quick today. We don't really have a lot to do. And then, of course, on the 31st, is it? Yeah, the 31st will be our membership meeting for lunch and hanging out and find out all the stuff that we went over last year, where our financial position is, and some of the things we've done and what we want to do for this upcoming year. So we're looking forward to it. But for this morning, are you guys hungry, by the way? Yeah. I mean spiritually hungry. Am I coming? All right. All right. Who's physically hungry? Okay, that too. Okay. That too. But spiritually hungry. I hope you're spiritually hungry today, because I'm not only pastor, today I'm chef. I want to feed you. I want to give you some good food that you're going to walk out of here and hopefully have a better understanding of where we are today. Like what's going on in our world. Somebody texted me this week, I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, asking about Israel, meaning the Israel in the Middle East, the country of Israel, in particular, the Jewish people. And I've heard this before, I've had people ask this before. Are the Jewish people the chosen people of Elohim, the chosen people of God? Now, amongst the Bible-believing world, amongst the believers in Messiah, you're going to get all sorts of different answers to that. A lot of them are going to say yes. They're the people of Yah. They're the people that the covenant was given to. They're back in the land. There's going to be a red heifer. There's going to be a temple and all of those sorts of things. But I want to give you a little bit different perspective today about what it means to be the chosen people of Elohim. Our opening verse for today comes out of the Gospel according to Matthew. This should be really, really familiar to everybody. The story, it's the parable of the wedding. We've been going over it on Wednesdays and a couple of other parables. We've talked about this parable probably a dozen times, and yet there is still so much more in this parable we haven't even touched on yet. So this is about halfway through the parable. You know the parable. The master says the kingdom of Elohim is like a father, a king, who wants a wedding for his son. And what the king does is he sends out servants with an invitation for those who are invited. The people who are invited refuse the invitation. He sends out other servants, and they do the same. He sends out other servants. It gets to the point that they not only reject the invitation, but that they wind up beating and eventually killing the servants that were sent to them to bring them the invitation. When the king finds out about it, he's angry. And here is where the parable picks up in verse 7 up on the screen. It says, "But when the king, the sovereign, heard, he was wroth." Wroth meaning he was full of wrath. He was mad. He was wroth and sent out his soldiers, destroyed those murderers, and set their city on fire. Then he said to his servants, the wedding feast indeed is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy. Therefore, go into the street corners, and as many as you find, invite to the wedding feast." And those servants went out into the street corners and gathered all whom they found, both wicked and good. And the wedding hall was filled with guests. And when the king came in to view the guests, he saw there a man who had not put on a wedding garment. And he said to him, "Friend, how did you come in here not having a wedding garment?" And he was speechless. Then the king said to the servants, "Bind him hand and foot, take him away, and throw him out into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth." And probably one of the most famous verses in here, "For many are called, but few are chosen." All right, alarm should be going off in the back of your head because the master talks about this very point. For a few moments this morning, the topic and the title of the message is Chosen Clay Vessels. Chosen clay vessels. I know you guys know the prayer. If you know it at home, please pray with us. Father, give us eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart that is willing to obey. In the Master's name, amen. Amen. And I hope you guys can see on that first picture, it's just a little image, AI image of a wedding feast. And you can see in the wedding feast there, most of the guests, all of the guests, are all dressed similar. They're all dressed in white. And the guy obviously standing right in the center in there, he's at the wedding feast, but he is not appropriately dressed. And that's where the story picks up. He's the one that winds up being cast out into outer darkness where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. So as I said, or the question I asked, so what does it really mean to be chosen? This verse actually appears twice in the Gospels. It appears here in the story of the wedding feast, but it also appears in the workers of the vineyard. Workers come out in the morning, and then some later on, and they get so much for the pay for the day, and then they keep coming all day long. He brings more and more and more and more until finally the last guys come out maybe an hour before quitting time, and yet they're the first ones that wind up getting paid. Everybody gets all upset at that. At the end of all of that parable, the master says these same words: "Many are called, but few are chosen." What does it mean to be called? And I guess more importantly, what does it mean to be chosen? And who are the chosen people of Elohim? Now, again, most of our modern sort of religious culture would identify with the concept or the idea that when we say Israel, they mean the Jewish people are the chosen people of Elohim. I'm sure the people in Israel would agree with that, though all the stuff that they've gone through, sometimes I guess they wonder, why would we be the chosen? If this is what it means to be chosen, it's probably not a good idea to be chosen, but that's not really what it means to be chosen. It really is a very special thing to be chosen. But what does it mean? The concept that Israel, when we say Israel, see, we really got to sort of define things here, because we can say Israel and we're talking predominantly about the Jewish people, and predominantly we're talking about the people in the Middle East. But when you and I use the term Israel, it may include some of those people, but it's a much, much bigger definition. When we say Israel, we're really talking about us, all of us together, a multitude of peoples together in covenant with the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So two different definitions, so it's kind of a tricky answer. And people say, well, are the Jewish people the chosen people of Elohim? And I'm not trying to be offensive. I really, really am not trying to start stuff. I know this could be offensive. But the biblical answer is no. Is Israel, or are Israel, the chosen people of Elohim? The biblical answer would be yes, absolutely. Israel are the chosen people of Elohim. But we're going to find out in just a few minutes, not everyone who is of Israel is actually Israel. So here is where I guess one of the verses that comes out that people, sort of cling to right away. Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 6 on the notes there, number 3 on the slides if you got it. You guys don't have it. I got it. Deuteronomy chapter 7 verse 6 says, this is the master, this is Elohim speaking to the house of Israel through Moses. For you are a set-apart people. Now, we're talking about the 12 tribes, the people who came out of Egypt, the people who went through the wilderness. That's who he's referring to. For you are a set-apart people to Yah, your Elohim. Yahweh, your Elohim, has chosen you to be a people for himself. Well, there it is right there. They are the chosen people of Elohim. He's talking to Israel. I know we seem like we're splitting hairs. At this time, there are no Jewish people. There is Israel and 12 tribes made up of the native born and also the foreigners and the strangers all together. They were all Israel. So he says to them, he has chosen you to be a people for himself, a treasured possession above all the peoples on the face of the earth. So to be chosen is a pretty important thing. To be chosen above all the peoples on the earth, a special possession to Elohim. Verse 7 says, Yahweh did not set his love on you, nor choose you, because you were more numerous than any other people, for you were the least of all peoples. But because of Yahweh loving you, and because of him guarding the oath which he swore to your father, Yahweh has brought you out with a strong hand, meaning Egypt, and ransomed you from the house of bondage, from the hand of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And you shall know that Yah, your Elohim, he is Elohim, the trustworthy God, El, guarding covenant and loving commitment for 1,000 generations to those who love him and to those who guard his commandments. This is the passage that we sort of look at and defines the concept of the idea that Israel are the chosen people. And of course, through the nation of Israel comes the entire story of the Bible as we get it, all the way from Genesis to Malachi or Chronicles, whichever text you might have, and all the Gospels from Matthew all the way to Revelation. They're all written by people that were native born to the house of Israel, and many of them are written by Jews. Now, again, I know it sounds like I'm splitting hairs, but just for, because I know sometimes people listen that may not know the stuff that we know. We are all here New Yorkers, right? We are also here all Americans. If I go to New Jersey, am I a New Jerseyite? No, I'm probably just going there for cheaper gas, but no, I'm a New Yorker. But what we all have in common is we are Americans. We are part of a bigger nation. So that's where the splitting hairs comes from. There is Israel, the nation, made up of all of these groups of people, including people that are not native born, people that came out of Egypt, people from Greece, people from all the areas of Egypt. Because don't forget, during the time of Joseph, the famine, people from all over the world came to Egypt, and a lot of them just wound up staying there. They saw the miracles. It was a great multitude that came out with Moses. So we're not just talking about of our concept today. We say the Middle East, Israel. That's a very, very different thing than what we're talking about right here. I want you to at least be aware of that. So Israel is indeed the chosen of Elohim. Concept, the idea is why? Well, he tells us here, not because you're special, not because you did anything, not because you're a whole group, huge group of people. As a matter of fact, the chosen of Elohim are actually a smaller group of people. But he loves them. And he loves them, he says, because of the oath that he swore to our forefathers. The oath that he's referring to comes out of Genesis chapter 12 and verse 11. And it says the following. It says, and Yah said to Abram, get yourself out of your land. He lived in Babylon at this time. Get yourself out of your land, from your relatives and from your father's house, to a land that I will show you. And I shall make you a great nation, and bless you and make your name great. And you shall be a blessing. And I shall bless those who bless you, and curse him who curses you. And in you all the clans of the earth shall be blessed. That's the oath. What is the oath? All the clans of the earth are going to be blessed through Abraham. Not one clan, not one group, all of the clans. Or we would say, rather than using clans, we would say tribes, or even, probably an even more clear term to us, all the nations will be blessed through Abraham. That's the oath. Genesis chapter 22 and verse 15 says, and the messenger of Yah. Well, we already talked about that. Who's the messenger of Yah? We know him in the New Testament as the Mashiach. The angel or the messenger of Yah called to Abraham a second time. This is after he goes to offer up his son Isaac, but he doesn't do it. He gets a ram is caught in the thicket. A second time from the heavens and said, by myself I have sworn. This is Elohim speaking. By myself I have sworn, declares Yahweh, because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, that I shall certainly bless you, and I shall increase your seed as the stars of the heavens and as the sand which is on the seashore, and let your seed possess the gate of their enemies, and in your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. Here's the oath again. Except now he's not just telling Abraham, in you all the nations are going to be blessed. Now Elohim is swearing. He's making an oath. Now there is, when we make oaths, I guess when we were kids, remember you used to say, at least in my generation, we just say, I swear my mother. Right? Ever do that? I don't mean that in a bad way. But when you want to let people know, you tell them the truth. Yeah, I swear my mother. And of course, you were lying, but you said it anyway because you wanted to portray the idea that you were telling the truth. We swear on things that are potentially, that everybody realizes or thinks are bigger than us, are more important than us. So you're giving your word according to your mother or your father or whatever it is you happen to be swearing on, to prove that what I'm saying is actually true. Well, what does Yah swear on? What is greater than him that he could actually swear on? So he gave his word already when he said, come out of Egypt. I'm going to bless you. Everybody blesses you, I'll bless. Everybody curse you, I'll curse. And in you, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. Abraham then offers up his son. And now he says, because you did this, not only have I given you my word, now I am going to swear. I am going to swear that I'm going to do this. It's one thing for Abba to say it. And honestly, for me, that's good enough. If you actually hear the audible voice of Elohim and he tells you he's going to do something, do you really need him to swear after that? Probably, especially if it's an audible voice, probably not. But if the audible voice comes back and says, now I swear that what I told you, what's the one thing you can absolutely count on? That thing he said in his word and the thing he has now sworn to, it's going to happen. He's going to bless all the nations, not one, all the nations of the world. Here is the book of Hebrews, also talking about this particular topic. Listen to what Saul says. In order, he's speaking to us, to believers after the resurrection, in order that you do not become sluggish, but imitate those who through belief and patience inherit the promises. He's referring to the stuff that was said to Abraham. For Elohim, having promised Abraham, since he could swear by no one greater, swore by himself, saying, truly, blessing I shall bless you, and increasing I shall increase you. And so after being patient, he obtained the promise. For men do indeed swear by one greater, whatever it is that's greater, and an oath for confirmation is for them an end to all dispute. So once you say, listen, I swear, that's supposed to be, that's it, he's telling. When you go to a court, what do? They put a Bible in front of you, and you put your hand on it, and what do you say? I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The sad part is, can you actually believe people when they do that today? It's iffy. But he goes on to say, for men indeed do swear by one greater, and an oath for confirmation is for them an end of all dispute. In this way, Elohim, resolving to show even more clearly to the heirs of the promise, those who are chosen, the unchangeableness of his purpose. He confirmed it by an oath. All of that to say, when he told Abraham, I'm going to bless all the nations through you, and then he swore to Abraham, I'm going to bless all the nations through you, what's he going to do? Bless all the nations through you. That's what you can take to the bank. He confirmed it in an oath so that by two unchangeable matters. What are the two unchangeable matters? His word and the oath. He gave both of them. He gave his word, he spoke it, come out, this is what I'm going to do, and then he swore it. By two unchangeable matters in which it is impossible for Elohim to lie. It is impossible for Elohim to lie. We might have strong encouragement, we who have fled for refuge, to lay hold of the expectation set before us. So all of that, just to get fresh in your mind. When the first verse that we read, he says, you are a chosen people. I've chosen you. I love you. I chose you. Not because you're a whole lot of people. You're really, really few. I chose you because of the oath that I swore to your father. I chose you because of the word that I gave. So Abba is doing whatever he's doing. Elohim is doing whatever he's doing because he swore it to Abraham, gave it in a word, and then swore it to Abraham. And Elohim does not lie, which means it's going to happen. So the process of calling the 12 tribes out with all the others that were with them is part of Elohim confirming the promise. Now, even in the calling them out of Egypt, it was lots of different nations, lots of other people that were with them. But that's not the grand fulfillment of it. That's the first stage of it. It still is going to become much, 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 much bigger. And the pattern to which he called them out, like everything else, hopefully by now we know, everything is what? Everything's cyclical. So here is number 5. I guess that means anything, but number 5 on the notes. Again, aren't the Jews the chosen people? Well, yeah, if they're walking in Messiah, absolutely. Absolutely. Are you the chosen people? Yes, if you indeed are walking in Messiah. Well, isn't that two different peoples? No. If we're walking in Messiah, we are all part of the house of Israel. People call it spiritual Israel, but it's not spiritual Israel. It is the Israel that he's actually talking about. So being chosen is not an ethnic or a national identity that can be passed down. So if your dad's chosen, does that mean that the kid's going to be chosen? No, we know that. And let's put it in a more practical term. If your mom and dad are serving Yah, and you've got kids that grow up in your house, is that a guarantee that the kids are going to serve Yah at some point, are going to serve the Lord at some point? No, it's up to them to decide whether they want to be part of the chosen or not. This is really important because this gets into a whole idea of from the Jewish mind, chosen is something that comes genealogically down. Well, we're children of Abraham. It gets passed down from generation to generation to generation. And yet Messiah tells us very clearly that is not so. And he's the one who started the whole thing, so he ought to know. Here's John chapter 8, verse 39. The master answering to the Pharisees and Sadducees, they answered him and said, Abraham is our father. Who was the promise sworn to? Abraham. They are saying, since we are physical descendants, since we can trace our genealogy back to Abraham, we are the progenitors of that oath and that promise, and therefore we are the children of Abraham. Listen to what Messiah says. They answered and said to him, Abraham is our father. Yeshua said to them, if you were Abraham's children, you would do the works of Abraham. So why did Abba swear to Abraham? First, he gave the promise, come out of your house, come out of your land. This is what I'm going to do for you, and I'm going to bless the nations. But when did he swear it to Abraham? When Abraham went to put the knife in his son. He says, now I know. Now that you've done that, now that you've heard my voice and you have obeyed, now I swear that we'll do that. So Abraham was he didn't just hear and believe it, he heard, he believed it, and he acted upon it. He obeyed listen, when you get an instruction, a voice that says, go take your son, your only son, and go to a mountain that I'm going to show you, and I want you to offer him there. All of us today would probably say, something wrong with you, buddy. I don't know who you heard, but I don't think that's what God wants you to do. And yet Abraham did it. And so from his actions, he showed his faith. It goes on to say, if you were Abraham's children, you would do the works of Abraham. That is to believe and then act upon it. But now you seek to kill me, a man who has spoken the truth, which I heard from Elohim. Abraham did not do this. And you know later on in that chapter, what does Messiah call them? Not sons of Abraham, he calls them what? Sons of Belial, sons of Satan. Sons of the serpent. That's a harsh thing. But he's letting them know, just because you can trace your genealogy to Abraham does not make you a child of Abraham. You have to act like Abraham in order to be a child of Abraham. Saul picks this same concept up in the book of Romans, chapter 9. We're going to spend a little bit of time in the book of Romans. So, chapter 9, verses 1 through 8. Listen to what Saul says about Israel, of which he is a part of. He is a Jew. He is part of the tribe of Benjamin. He says, I speak the truth in Messiah. I do not lie. My conscience also bearing me witness in the set-apart spirit, that I have great sadness and continual grief in my heart. For I myself could have wished to be banished from Messiah for the sake of my brothers, my relatives according to the flesh, who are the children of Israel, to whom is the adoption, the glory, the covenants, the giving of the Torah, the worship, and the promise, whose are the fathers, and from who is the Messiah according to the flesh, who is over all, Elohim, blessed forever. What's Saul talking about? The bulk of the Jews of that day did not believe. Obviously, many did. But as a nation, as a leadership, when he goes from synagogue to synagogue all over the world, what's the basic experience that Saul has at most synagogues? They'll beat him, flog him, stone him, kick him out. Not just him, all the other people that were with him. Riots would start. They didn't want to hear it. In Jerusalem, they've already killed an apostle, one of the sent ones, right off the bat. They've imprisoned them. They've got nothing but grief from the nation, from the leadership of people. So Saul's upset. He says, my own people, to whom all of this stuff was written, they were called out of Egypt. They got the Torah. They got the promises. They got all of this stuff. And here it is. Messiah comes from them. And they refuse to believe it. Because as Messiah said, just because you're Abraham's physical descendant doesn't make you a child of Abraham. So Saul's saying, listen, if I can give up my own faith, if I can give up my own position, I'd give it for the whole nation of Israel. But you can't do that. Verse 6 says, however, it is not as though the word of Elohim has failed. So just because Israel has rejected Messiah, did that mean all the stuff that was ever said in the Torah and the prophets, that somehow it all failed? Or when Elohim says something and then swears by it, no matter what's going to happen? He's going to do it. No matter what, he's going to do it. However, it is not as though the word of Elohim has failed. Here it is. For they are not all Israel who are of Israel. It's really important we understand this morning. He's not saying they're not, that the name of their nation is in Israel, but he's referring to Israel as the faithful people of Elohim, of which they are not. So he's saying, so not everybody who's got a passport that says Israel in that day or any other day is actually part of the Israel of Elohim. Abraham has to be your father, and that's proven by the actions you take and the faith you have, just like Abraham did. For they are not all Israel who are of Israel. Neither are they all children, because they are the seed of Abraham. You see, Saul's not saying anything any different than Messiah said. Messiah already said this in John chapter 8. But in Isaac or Yitzhak, your seed shall be called. That is, those who are the children of the flesh, these are not children of Elohim. but the children of the promise are reckoned as the seed. This needs explanation. He says, we are like Isaac. Well, Saul's expecting that we have all read our Bibles and we all know what the story of Isaac is. Isaac is promised to Abraham as part of this whole thing that he's doing to make what he told them when he got out of the land. I'm going to bless you through all nations. This is how we're going to do it. You're going to have a child. But instead of just waiting on that promise, what did Abraham and Hagar and Sarah come up with? Their own plan. They came up with their own ideas about things. And they figured, since it's legal, why don't you sleep with the slave woman that we got out of Egypt and have a child with her, and she'll be the surrogate mother, and that will be the seed that Yah has promised to us. Could that be the seed that Yah promised to them? No, because it came from a promise. A promise means there's really not a whole lot you've got to do about it except accept the promise. Somebody comes up and promises you, I'm going to do blah, 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 blah. What do you got to do for that? Well, wait. When it comes, it comes. Yah said, I'm going to do this. And they waited, and they waited, and they waited. And so they finally, here it is, they acted in the flesh. This is important. They tried to make the promise of Elohim come by their own actions, their own way. This is real important you get this. They still believed the promise. They had the promise in their head. Do you think that ultimately that their intentions were evil when they were doing this? No, I don't. I think that they were sincere. Because in that culture, would that have been legal? Yeah, absolutely, it would have been legal. Legal doesn't necessarily mean right or moral or ethical, because Yah gave it to them as a promise. So I don't think there's malice in their heart. I think they are truly, in and of themselves, trying to help God. And let's attain what it is he said he's going to give us, but let's do it by our own effort. Well, of course, what's the product of that? Ishmael, the son of a slave woman, by their own effort. Isaac comes along by no effort at all. That few years later, they come, they eat with him. This time next year, you're going to have a baby. And she laughs, and they name him Isaac. That was the fulfillment of Yah's promise. One is the personal effort of people to make the promise come. The other is what Yah does on his timetable when he's ready, because when he says he's going to do something, especially if he swears he's going to do something, it's going to get done. This is important because think about what he's calling the Jewish culture back then. What he's calling the leadership, the Sadducees, the Pharisees, the people that follow them, the Sanhedrin. Think about what he's calling them. He's not calling them Isaac. He's calling them Ishmael. That by their own efforts, by the work of their own hands, what are they trying to do? Attain the promise of Elohim. That only comes how? By a promise. And because they were the children of Ishmael, they actually missed the promise when it came, because they were so bound in what they were doing. Does this make sense to everybody? I know we're building step by step here. It's all going to come together. Trust me. All right. So, where were we? Verse 8. That is, those are the children of the flesh. These are the children of Elohim, but the children of the promise are reckoned as the seed. So we are either children of the flesh, that is Ishmael, or we are children of the promise, that is Isaac. Either we are trying to do things in and of our own way to make the promises come true, or the promise just came true because it just got revealed to you and you accepted it, you believed it like Abraham, and then you acted upon it. You didn't act upon it to get it, you got it, then acted upon it. They were acting upon it to get it. I know it sounds like a tongue twister, but that's really, really important. So I just want you to fast forward now these last 2,000 years. Yes, there is an Israel in the Middle East. Yes, there is a Jewish nation in the Middle East. Is that Isaac or is that Ishmael? It's Ishmael. They're trying to gain the land in and of their own effort. They want to rebuild a temple in and of their own effort. They want to establish a Sanhedrin, already did, in and of their own effort. We already know that stuff came down because of their efforts. Listen to Wednesday night Bible study. You'll catch up to where we are. That stuff was taken down purposely because of their efforts. So what? Because they still refuse to believe the promise, what are they still doing now? Waking up every day, and you got to put one foot in a particular set of your pants, and then the next one in, right one first, left one second. You have to eat a certain way, cleanse a certain way. On Shabbat, you got to use a particular type of kitchen. You can't use your regular kitchen. You can't cook something on a barbecue on Shabbat the same as you cook on a stove or a barbecue for the rest of the week. You got to have 2 sets of silverware. All of these different things, or think about all the traditions that are there. Those are all Ishmael. Is there malice in their hearts? Are they doing this because there's some sort of evil? I think they're doing it just like Abraham and Sarah did. They're trying to make it occur. But you can't do that. It comes by promise, not by our effort. I hope that makes sense to everybody, because here we go. Number 6. So Saul's saying, wait, I would give up my own salvation if my own people would just open up their eyes and understand who Messiah. Because they've gotten all of these wonderful things. God has used them for wonderful things. But now what has happened? Messiah gives us a couple of parables. The parable of the vineyard. He sends out servants to get fruit, to get the fruit due them for the vineyard that was leased them. They reject the servants. He sends others out. They reject the servants. He sends others out. They kill the servants. Finally, he sends out who? The son. And what do they do to the son? They reject it and say, let us get his inheritance for ourselves. Ishmael. That's Ishmael. Let's get it for ourselves. And then when the master turns around and says, so what do you do to these servants? Their own words are, you destroy them. You burn their city to the ground. You take what was theirs and you give it to someone else who will bring the fruits that they should have been bringing the whole time. Well, the Pharisees knew exactly who he was talking about. Them, because they would eventually kill the son. Then the parable of the wedding feast, as we started off with today. He sends servants, he sends servants, he sends servants. Eventually, they say no to the wedding invitation. And it's not all of them, because he's not telling us the entire, he's telling us the general story. Obviously, throughout history, were there people in Israel that did accept the wedding invitation? Absolutely. Were there people in Israel who did bring fruit? Absolutely. Did they do it as a nation, though? No. And when he finds out that they killed the servants, the parable we just read, what does the king do? He sends his army to those murderers, and he destroys them, and he burns their city, and he sends the invitation to other people. Both good and bad. Both of those parables fit into this entire story here, because what he's telling us is what we now know in history. The rejection of the Messiah comes, who is the very promise that was sworn to Abraham to come to do what? To bless one people or to bless all nations. He came to bless all nations. They reject him. Not all. Obviously, there's our Jewish brethren. Without them, we wouldn't have the book that we've got in our hands. But on the by and large, over the last 2,000 years, they've rejected him. And what happened to the city? What happened to those who did it? exactly what the parable of the vineyard says and exactly what the parable of the wedding feast says. It happened in history. There's no denying it. Where's the temple today? Not one stone left upon another. Where's the altar? Not one stone left upon another. This is what Messiah said would happen. So I say that to you because I want you to realize that these parables are actually, from the perspective that they're given to us, they're future. But from our perspective, they're what? They're history. This already happened. So if he took the vineyard and he's leased it to others, and he's destroyed the city and he's destroyed the people and the invitation. Guys, it's the same invitation. The invitation hasn't changed. It's still an invitation to a wedding feast. The intent of what was given to Abraham is still there. It didn't change. Yes, we've got better promises. Yes, there's resurrection, all these wonderful things. But ultimately, it is to bless all nations. All nations. The invitation hasn't changed. So here is, as we continue on in Romans 9, Saul continues to talk about this. Listen to what he says. This is chapter 9 and verse 15. So Israel, as a nation, has rejected Messiah. Saul's upset about that. But he now sees many of the Gentiles coming to faith. And he becomes a teacher of both Jew, but also Gentile. And he gives this as an example. So the question is, so you're telling me that all of these promises were made to Israel, and then at some point, Abba just burns it all down, and he picks somebody else? Is that the way it works? Does Abba pick winners and losers? Does he? Does he decide, okay, well, I can't use you anymore, so you're done with, and now I'm going to pick somebody else? Is that the way it actually works? Or is it by what we do? It's always by what we do. I mention this because there's concepts and ideas out there like predestination, like Calvinism. These groups teach that it doesn't matter what we do. You are either predestined to be chosen or you're not. Now, that's not bad if you happen to be one of the people who seem to be predestined to be chosen. But if you're not, then does it really matter how good you are? Or how bad you are? It gets a little murky. But people read what Saul says, and that's how people take it. It doesn't matter. Abba's going to call winners and losers. And it almost sounds like that, but bear with me. Verse 15, Saul says, he says to Moses, I shall favor whomever I favor. I shall have compassion on whomever I have compassion. That sort of sounds like Elohim saying, well, I have compassion on you. Well, no, on you, because you look much better than him. So I have compassion on you. But him, forget him. I'm going to do a Mikey, forget about it. Some of you know what I'm saying. No, that's not what it means. He says, so then it is not of him who is wishing, nor of him who it is running, but of Elohim who shows favor. Wait a minute. Is he saying that it doesn't matter what we do, winning, running, it doesn't matter, Yah's just going to pick? No, he's saying it doesn't matter what works you want to do to try to earn his favor. It doesn't work that way. You are either part of the promise, you are either Isaac, or you are Ishmael. Not because he chose you to be Ishmael or Isaac, but your own actions put you in that position. So now that you're in that position, can Elohim use you? Well, he can use you for good, or he can use you for bad if your heart is against him. Either or. But what did he swear to? To bless all nations, no matter what. He goes on to say, then it is not of him who is wishing, nor of him who is running, but of Elohim who shows favor. For the scripture says to Pharaoh, for this same purpose I have raised you up, to show my power in you, that my name may be declared in all the earth. And what people take as a meaning of this is, well, look at Pharaoh, he had no choice. It says he rose him up for destruction. He rose him up to do all of these things. Pharaoh was predestined to death and destruction the whole time. No, he wasn't. No, well, Elohim hardened his heart. over and over and over again. Yes, that's true. But before any of that happened, what did Pharaoh do? Here's Exodus chapter 8, verse 32. And you need to understand the context of this. Because in Exodus 8, I forgot what plague it is. It might have been the flies. Plagues are coming upon the land. And Pharaoh speaks to Moses and says, please pray to your God that he might have mercy. We can't take this anymore. Moses prays to Elohim and the plague stops. What should have happened at that instant to Pharaoh? His heart should have been like, oh, he is the Elohim. He's God. He's bigger than Ra. He's bigger than all of the Sekhmet and all of these other Egyptian things. It was mercy that Abba showed him. And the people of Egypt, he showed them mercy. Rather than mercy, what did Pharaoh do? It's Exodus chapter 8, verse 32. It says, but Pharaoh hardened his heart at this time too, and did not let the people go. So, did Abba predestine, make him do that, or was that Pharaoh's decision? It was Pharaoh's decision. So now, and he's going to talk about it in a pottery sense, because that's where we're getting to, the idea of pottery. He's going to talk about it in a pottery sense. If you've got a lump of clay that just will not form into what you want it to form, and every time you form it, there's a crack in it, well, what do you do with that thing? You toss it, or you use it for something else. But you've got another piece of pottery, the clay is just right, the water's just right, wheel is spinning just right, and you're molding it, and you're making it, and it's just doing everything you want it to do, and it comes out to be this glorious thing. That's because the intent of the clay, not the clay has an intent, because we're talking about people, but what was in the clay was willing to be molded. And when it sees things like Pharaoh should have, the compassion should have reacted, but he reacted the other way. He was a broken vessel before any of this happened. This is important. Very, very important. Back to Romans, Saul then goes on to say, then you shall say to me, why does Elohim still find fault? Why does he blame? Because he's saying, people would say, well, Pharaoh had no choice. Oh, yes, he did. Just like we all do. For who has resisted his counsel? But who are you, O man, to talk back to Elohim? Shall that which is formed say to that who formed it, why have you made me like this? Does not the potter have authority over the clay for the same lump to make one vessel of value and another not of value? And again, it's because he wants us to go back and read the story of Pharaoh. Was Pharaoh a vessel of not value? Yes. Was that because Elohim made him a vessel of not value, or did Pharaoh make himself a vessel that was not valuable? And Abba used it. He used it for his glory. He used it to get them out of Egypt. He used it to show all of Egypt who he is and all of the house of Israel. So he'll use broken vessels that despise him and don't want anything to do with him, but he'll also use glorious, glorious vessels and make them into those that are willing to be molded into what he wants them to be. All of those vessels, pieces of clay, were called to be in the potter's hands. One was chosen. Starting to make sense? Number 7, I know I keep saying it, I'm just so used to saying that. Saul goes on. Chapter 9, verse 22. And if Elohim, desiring to show wrath and to make his power known with much patience, tolerated the vessels of wrath prepared for destruction, and that he might make known the riches of his glory on vessels of compassion, which he had prepared beforehand for glory, even whom he called not only of the Jew, but also of the nations. Let me explain this, because this is his conclusion here. He's giving the example of Pharaoh. So let's go back in the story. So what happens? Israel's in Egypt. Abba wants to get them out to fulfill the oath given to Abraham. Oh, it keeps going right back to the oath. To fulfill what was said to Abraham. these signs and wonders and miracles and plagues and all the rest of that should have softened their hearts, but it didn't. It just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So from a nation that refused the visuals, the miracles, the plagues, that refused it, he used that nation in their refusal and destroyed them. Don't forget, when they left Egypt, Egypt was done for. All the firstborns had died. How many people died before that? The entire military gets up and follows them. The entire military is gone. Their entire leadership is gone. There probably are hardly any men left in Egypt. Egypt was a wasteland after that. Why? Because, well, their hearts were hard, and Elohim used it. But Israel, they began walking in the promise. They got out. They went to Mount Sinai, and the whole story evolves. He uses one nation because of their refusal and the hardship, a vessel of dishonor, to bless another nation who at the time, their hearts were open. This is important because this example is what Saul is saying has happened to Israel. The roles have been reversed. Everything is cyclical. What happened before to get the message to Israel and get them to Mount Sinai has happened again, except the Pharaoh character in the story is Caiaphas and Annas and the Sanhedrin and the temple and all of that stuff. The Pharisees, the Sadducees, they are the Pharaoh, and their hearts are hardened. The invitation has come over and over, and it's not like this was the first time their hearts were hardened, because every parable, whether it's the parable of the vineyard or the parable of the wedding feast, it says he sent servants again and again and again until they kill the son. Or until finally, what does he have to do? Destroy them. Destroy the city and destroy the people and give the vineyard to others. And give the invitation now to others. This is really, really, really important, guys. Again, that doesn't mean that there were no faithful Jews, because as we read on in Romans here, Saul quotes Isaiah when Isaiah says of the house of Israel that it's only going to be a remnant eventually that are going to really understand. And he saves the remnant so that we don't wind up like Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, who aside from Lot and his children, who else walked out of Sodom and Gomorrah? Nobody. So Isaiah is prophesying. He sees this stuff coming, and he knows that, yes, judgment is going to come on us because we keep refusing the invitation. We keep being asked to bring fruit, and we don't bring fruit. And then the Mashiach's going to come, and we're going to kill the Mashiach. So what's going to happen? The judgment that Moses declared is going to come on us. All of this stuff's going to get wiped out. But Abba, because they are the physical descendants of Abraham, does not destroy them all. But he keeps a remnant. He blesses them for King David. He blesses them for Abraham. And in every generation since Messiah, there have been Jewish believers in Messiah in every generation. They are not grafted into us, the church, because that's not technically our name. We are grafted into them, the house of Israel. And this story is happening all over again. These are what these parables are about. So Elohim, in order to show his wrath and make his power known, with patience tolerated the vessels. He tolerated the killing of the prophets. He tolerated the killing of the servants. He tolerated the killing of John the Baptist. He tolerated the killing of all the disciples and the apostles. But at some point, no more. At some point, things change. Matthew chapter 22, verse 2. This is the parable of the wedding. The kingdom of the heavens is like a man, a sovereign who made a wedding for his son, and he sent out his servants to call those who were invited to the wedding feast, but they would not come. Again, he sent out other servants, saying, say to those who are invited, see, I prepared my dinner, my ox and cattle are slaughtered, and all is ready. Come to the wedding feast. But they disregarded it. They went on their way. This one to his field, that one to his trade, and the rest, having seized his servants, insulted and killed them. But when the king heard this, he was wroth, and he sent out his soldiers and destroyed those murderers and set their city on fire in 70 A.D. And now, 2,000 years later, there's an Israel in the land. There's always been Jews in the land. There's never been a time where there was a Jew in the land. I know people say that. It's just not true. That's not true. They call themselves Palestinians, but they were Jews. They've always been there. Not in the numbers that they're there today, but they've always been there. And what are they trying to do today? And so many of us who don't understand what this story is about are rooting for them and saying, yeah, be Ishmael. Yeah, build a temple. Yeah, get a Sanhedrin. Yeah, take over everything from Egypt all the way to from the Nile, all the way to the Euphrates, everything from Turkey all the way down to Saudi Arabia, because that's what was promised to you. Is the Israel that Elohim promised and swore that to? Are they going to get that from their own effort as an Ishmael? Or is that going to come by promise? It's going to come by promise. We got to be careful if we're trying to do it as an Ishmael. Here is Romans 9, verse 25. Saul continues his argument. It says in Hosea too, I shall call them my people who are not my people. He's talking about the Gentiles. So the people that the vineyard's given to, the people who the invitation is now given to, is not Judah anymore, or the people that came before Judah, the Israel that came before Judah. Yes, it is still Judah, because there's still Jews that are believing all the way through history. But now the invitation is going to a people who were not his people to begin with. That's us, or our ancestors. And it's been going out to all of us. We've all been given the same invitation. Do what Abraham did. Have faith like Abraham did. And then respond to that faith the way Abraham did. If you do that, what are you? A child of Abraham. A citizen of the house of Israel. I know we call it church today. I know we have these churches, everybody's all big on pronouns in our culture today, right? All that stuff, the he, she, them, all the rest. That's kind of weird, because the only people who use that in the scripture are demons, right? What do you have to do with us? We are legion, right? I'm to make my point. Another message, another day. But I just had to say that. It was in the back of my mind. But so that's just terrible. That's just absolutely terrible. No, it's true. It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm just going to leave that alone. Let's go back to this. The potter and the clay. Jeremiah chapter 18, verse 22. Arise and go down to the potter's house, and there I let you hear my words. So I went down to the potter's house and saw him doing a piece of work on the wheel. And the vessel that he made of clay was ruined in the hand of the potter. He made it and it cracked or whatever in the hand of the potter. So he remade it into another vessel, as it seemed good for the potter to do. Then the word of Yah came to me, saying, O house of Israel, am I not able to do with you as this potter, declares Yah? Let me put the right, it is up there, I'm sorry. As I did O house of Israel, am I not able to do with you as this potter, declares Yah? Look, as the clay is in the hands of the potter, so are you in my hand, O house of Israel. So Israel rejects Mashiach. And because of their failure, the message now goes out to us, to all of the nations, to all of us. We all receive the same invitation, but we've got to come the way Abraham came. That's how we are children of Abraham. Saul goes on in Romans 10 to say, truly, brothers, my heart's desire and prayer for Elohim, for Israel, is for deliverance. I want them delivered. And you should. I want Israel delivered, but I also want Ukraine delivered. And I want Venezuela delivered. And I want Iran delivered. Because this is not a promise to one people. This is a promise and a swearing, an oath to all nations, for all of us to become Abraham's children. My brother, my heart's and prayer desire for Elohim is for deliverance, for I bear them witness that they have a zeal for Elohim, but not according to knowledge. You know who else has a zeal for Elohim? But when it says not according to knowledge, it means, yeah, they have a hunger for God, but they really don't understand the purpose and the intent of the Torah. They don't understand the coming of the Mashiach. They're looking for a Mashiach to come and deliver them like a military guy, or somebody that's going to come and sit in the temple. That's what they're looking for. And so many of us who don't understand this story are looking for it with them and rooting them along. Guys, there is no prophecy of Israel. When you read the parable of the vineyard, you read the parable of the wedding feast, it doesn't say, and after the message goes out to everybody, that he goes back and he reestablishes the whole city and sets up the whole thing again. It doesn't say that. It says the wedding feast comes. It says he gives it to other people that they bear fruit. There's nothing that says we got to go. And I'm not saying they're not going to do it. Of course they're going to do it. Why? Because that's what you do in the flesh. You try to make the promises come true rather than waiting for it in the spirit. For I bear them witness that they have a zeal for Elohim, but not according to knowledge. You know who else has a zeal for Elohim? Because if you think about the Jewish people in our world, what are they, like 10 million people, 12 million people? Which is, I don't even think that, we probably have more people in New York than, I said that like a New Yorker. We have more people in New York than probably there are Jews in the world. But you know who else has a zeal for God, but not according to knowledge, and is billions of people? Islam. Islam. Now, I wouldn't even say that that's an Ishmael. That's a whole other story. But it's still a zeal. Man, you got to have zeal to pray 5 times a day. Let's be honest. Let's be honest here. Do you actually stop? Let's not even do 5. Let's cut it down. Do you actually stop and consciously 3 times a day, in the morning oblation, the afternoon, the evening oblation, actually stop, take 5-10 minutes and just pray to Elohim? Most of us probably not. I'm not saying you don't pray to Elohim. And I'm not telling you got to necessarily do that. But I'm just saying, it takes zeal to do that. It takes zeal to get up at 4 o'clock every morning and wait for the horn to blow, or for the guy to yell, or whatever he does, for the cantor to go off, and you to get up and throw down your mat and then bow your head and go through the whole show. It takes a lot of zeal, but it's zeal without knowledge, without understanding. They call themselves children of Abraham, but they do not do what Abraham did. This affects everything. For not knowing the righteousness of Elohim and seeking to establish their own righteousness. I'm going to read that with the PDP. For not knowing the righteousness of Elohim and seeking to establish, as Ishmael in the flesh, their own religion, their own righteousness. They did not subject themselves to the righteousness, the promise of Isaac, of Elohim. For Messiah is the goal, the wedding invitation of the Torah unto righteousness. To everyone who believes, they are called. How many people have been called? How many people have gotten the invitation? I'd say probably a good portion of the planet at this point. In every generation, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But in our generation, how many people, it's just globally, know the Christmas story? Maybe they can't stand it. Maybe they're against it. Maybe they think it's crazy. But how many people at least have heard it? Probably most of the world. How many people have watched a movie and there's the Christian guy or the preacher or whatever, and they talk about Jesus or whatever it is? How many people have heard it? Lots. How many people have heard it because people that actually know him have gone out and tried to share, and lots of people. Everybody's getting the invitation. But just because you get the invitation doesn't make you chosen. You have to do what? What Abraham did. Believe the invitation. And just like you would, if somebody here was getting married and they sent you out an invitation and you opened it up, hey, you got to believe, number one, they're getting married. I'm going to show up. And then way down on the bottom, it's got the dress code. This is how you need to, it's going to be a black tie event. If it's a black tie event and you decide to pull out Moro and you come in your shorts and t-shirt, you know what they're going to do to you? I'm sorry, I'm picking on Moro. They're going to kick him out. They're going to kick him out. You got to do what Abraham did. He received and heard the word and he believed it, then he acted upon it. For Messiah is the goal, the wedding invitation of the Torah unto righteousness to everyone who believes. So one more time, going all the way back to our first verse. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6. For you're a set-apart people to Yah your Elohim. Yah your Elohim has chosen you to be a people for himself, a treasured possession above all the peoples on the face of the earth. Was he talking to the Israel that came out of Egypt? Yes, but he's also talking to who? All of us. He's talking to all of us. You are, by definition, all of this, if you are a child of Abraham. For you are the least of all peoples, but because of Yah loving you and because of him guarding the oath which he swore to your fathers, Abraham. And you shall know that Yah your Elohim, he is Elohim, a trustworthy El, guarding the covenant and loving commitment for 1,000 generations to those who love him and those who guard his commandments. Matthew chapter 22 and verse 12. He said to them, friend, how'd you come in here not having a wedding garment? Let me put the right slide up. Here it is. I got the wrong slide up there. Sorry, guys. How'd you come in here not wearing a wedding garment? And the guy was speechless. So if he's not wearing a wedding garment, but he showed up at the wedding, what did he get? The invitation. But he's not wearing the wedding garment. Friend, how'd you get in here without a wedding garment? He was speechless. Then the king said to his servants, bind him hand and foot, take him away, throw him out into the outer darkness where there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen. To wear the white wedding garment. So think about that. Not just for our Jewish brethren, because if you know that there's a wedding and you want to respond to the invitation, but you come in the wrong clothing, how are you coming to that wedding? You're not dressing the way you were asked to dress. You're dressing what? The way you want to dress. You're Ishmael. You're Ishmael. You're doing it the way you want to do it, the way you feel is right, the way you feel is proper, which is certainly a big thing in our culture today. Just do what you think is right. You really think it's right to go up to a police officer and start screaming at them in the face, touching them, putting your car in front of their cars while they're doing the work? Do you really think that's right? Because there's a lot of people out there that for some reason think that's a good thing to do. Just for the record, it's not. It's not. Come on. Oh, I gotta stop. For you're a set-apart people to your Elohim. You're chosen for those who love him and guard his commandments. Listen to the words of the master. That's who was chosen in Deuteronomy 17. You're a set-apart people. You're chosen because you love me and you keep my commandments. John chapter 14, verse 15. These are the words of the master. Actually, these are the words of the same person who just said it in Deuteronomy. If you love me, you shall keep my commandments. Verse 21. He who possesses my commandments and guards them is he who loves me. And he who loves me shall be loved by my Father, and I shall love and manifest myself to him. Yeshua answered, if anyone loves me, he shall guard my word, and my Father shall love him, and we shall come to him and make our stay with him. He who does not love me does not One more time, I'm getting tongue-tied. He who does not love me does not guard my words and comes in whatever clothing they want. And the word which you hear is not mine, but the Father who sent me. So what's the end goal of all of this? Revelation chapter 19, verse 7. Let us be glad and rejoice and give praise, for the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his wife prepared herself. She did something. And to her it was given to be dressed in fine linen, clean and bright, white. For the fine linen is the righteous acts of the set-apart ones. That's chosen. You believe, and then you live accordingly. Then you obey. Then you do what he's asked you to do. And you learn, and you learn, and you learn. You make mistakes, and you get better. So, ultimately, I'm sorry. Those are the verses we just read. I apologize. Getting all flustered up here with all this stuff that's going on. Oosa. Okay, here we go. So, who are the chosen? Israel is. Always has been, is today. Now, we call it by all sorts of other different names, but we're talking about children of Abraham who believed like Abraham believed in the seed that was coming and was obedient like Abraham was to do the things Abraham did. That's Israel. For if there, Jews, Judah, this is Romans chapter 11. For if the Jews' casting away is the restoration and favor of the world, what is their acceptance but life from the dead? If the casting away of Egypt brought about the blessing of Moses and the children of Israel at Mount Sinai, if now the cursing and casting away of Israel brings about Judah brings about the blessing of Abraham to all the nations, if that's what's happening, what's actually happening? The promise. The thing he swore to. It's actually happening. Probably not the way we thought it would happen, but it's actually happening. What is their acceptance but life from the dead? Can Israel, can anybody of Jewish background still be grafted back in? Of course, probably quicker than any of us because they'll probably understand a lot more. Anybody can. You shall say then, the branches were broken off. That is Jews, Judah, that I might be grafted in, a Gentile. Good, good, he says. By unbelief, they were broken off. And you and I stand by belief. Do not be arrogant, but fear. For if Elohim did not spare the natural branches, he might not spare you either. If we start deciding, well, we can do it our own way. We can go our own way. We really don't have to obey. All right, maybe 7 of the commandments are acceptable. The other 3, we can change those. You better be careful. You better be careful. You start creating all sorts of different things that he didn't say. You better be careful. Because he's taught us. What's the whole Why destroy Egypt? To bless Israel. Why destroy Israel? To bless the world. What's coming? What has he taught us? Disobedience brings about wrath. And he's done it now on a global stage twice that we can see in the text. What is he actually telling us? It's coming again. It's coming again. It's coming again. And he is going to use whatever nations are against him, and they're going to be vessels of dishonor. And he's going to bless those of honor in resurrection and all the other stuff that's coming. By unbelief, they were broken off, and you stand by belief. Don't be arrogant, but fear. For if Elohim did not spare the natural branches, he might not spare you either. See then the kindness and the sharpness of Elohim. On those who fell, sharpness. But towards you, kindness. If you continue in his kindness. If you continue in his kindness. Otherwise, you might also be cut off. And they, Judah, also, if they do not continue in unbelief, they shall be grafted in. for Elohim is able to graft them in again. And then he quotes this crazy verse that people have asked me about for years and years and years, which is chapter 11, verse 25. For I do not wish you to be ignorant of these secrets, brothers, lest you should be wise in your own estimation. That hardening in part has come over Israel, until the completeness of the nations come in. And so all Israel shall be saved. What does that mean? All Israel shall be saved. Does that mean in the end he's going to save every single person that goes by under the nation or has a passport that says Israel? No, that's not what he's saying. He said when all the nations, all of the Gentiles and the Jews over all of those ages, when we've all finally gotten to that number to come in, then when that's full, the whole house of Israel saved. It's done. It's finished. What are we called? The house of Israel. We are called the house of Israel. So all Israel shall be saved, as it is written, the deliverer came out of Zion, he shall turn away wickedness from Jacob, and this is my covenant with them when I take away their sins. I got some other verses, but basically, you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood. You are a treasure to him. If we come like Abraham, if we believe, and if we do, if we obey. It's got to be both. I know in our culture today, there's a lot of the Christian world, a lot of the religious world around us who just says, just believe, just have faith, just believe. And I get that. That's great. Do that. But there's two sides to the coin. There is coming by faith to be established and made right before him. And then if you love him, obey his commandments. That is Abba's word for you this morning. You are indeed a chosen clay vessel. Amen? That's a lot. And I skipped a lot. Saul really gets into it. So I want you to think about this for a second. I want the people of Israel to be. And you know what's wonderful? People in Israel are getting saved. That's what. Have you ever seen One for Israel? How many Jews are just coming to faith in the Mashiach? It's wonderful. There's all sorts of other groups, so some amazing services and stuff. Well, listen, we're all at a different point. We've all been in different stages. We've all got the journey to get where we are, but we all had to start somewhere. Not just there. The people of Iran are coming to faith. The people of Venezuela are coming to faith. I believe the people in Cuba are coming to faith. And what's Yah going to do? If he's got to destroy one vessel to show glory to another, oh, you betcha, he'll do it. He'll do it. If our hearts are hard, he'll use us to his glory. It may not work out good for us, but he'll use it to his glory. Same applies for our everyday lives too. Be a vessel of honor and glory. Don't rebel. Don't kick against. And those that do kick against and are against you, he'll use them, even if he has to tear them down to bless you. That's just the way it works, guys. Amen? Father, we love you. We thank you. We ask, Abba, that you would take these words, let us mull over them, think about them throughout this week. Give them to us in our daily devotions. Have us think over these things. And Abba, to just begin to understand what's really going on around us and what your word really says. Father, give us wisdom, give us insight, but most of all, Father, help us to live as children of Abraham. There is no Jew, there is no Gentile, there is no male, there is no female. If we are in your Son, the Mashiach, then we are Abraham's children. We love you, Father. In the name of your Son and our Savior, the seed, we say amen. Amen. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I hope that you enjoyed that. Download the notes and go over it again. We'll see you on Monday for our review, and then the rest of the week for our Morning Mannas. Join us Wednesday. You guys got to get into Wednesdays. Get into Wednesdays. It's really an addendum to all the stuff we're doing here. We're going over some really, really interesting stuff. In the meantime, guys, enjoy the rest of your Shabbat. Say it with me, everybody. Shabbat! Shabbat. Peace, everybody.